We are perfect. Thank you, ma'am. For those of you just joining, I have been having some lovely technical issues and dropping off camera multiple times this week. So if I do that, it's not because I don't love you all. I'm just going to shut it down if it freezes. So with that, our wonderful Tian is running the show today. And we have Uma will be running her own slideshow. Hopefully everything goes well there. If not, we've got Tian as a backup for that too. So trying to get everything lined up appropriately. So any of you who are not having camera issues or bedhead ball cap situations, please feel free to turn your cameras on. We do want to make this very interactive. So thank you, Michelle, for leading that charge with the pupster in the background. Love that.
I'm also stuffing my face with lunch, so when I do that, I will turn the camera off.
Okay. I've seen you eat before. It's fine. All right. Well, I will go ahead and get us started since we are a couple minutes past the hour. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate everyone making it, and want to start with any housekeeping. Do we have any upcoming events that we want to talk about? Anyone? WOGA or otherwise?
I think two upcoming events. One is the industry happy hour, which is oil and gas. I believe it's March 23rd. I'm not sure where's the venue or the time just yet, but that's the day. And that's
actually, I think it's shifting to the 27th. If you're talking about the DPC one,
they call industry. So yeah, so right, that's the DPC one. They will be the host, I believe. So
I emailed back and forth with Sally Hallingstad this week, and it's moved to the 27th, but still don't know venue.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks, Kat. So March 27th, and then April 25th, we have a WOGA technical lunch with Andrew Hager, and that will be at the Oventive office.
Right. And what is the subject on that? Do you know?
Environmental and energy.
Okay.
The full I don't remember, but it's like a debate why we should care about environmental.
Outstanding. Great. Thank you, Tian. And on that vein, another shout out to Ms. Tian. I unfortunately had some repercussions from my South Africa trip that did not allow me to join her incredible tech session last week, but she currently has, I think, the standing record for participants. We had over 50 people show up at Oventive last Thursday, and everything I've gotten back was that Tian was a complete rock star. So thank you, Tian, for taking your time for doing that. And any of you that don't know Tian yet, she has, much like Melanie, recently launched her own company. And why don't you give us like a 10-second summary of what you're doing, Tian?
Thanks, Kat. So Tian Do, I had 13 years in the oil and gas industry as a whole. Especially in the completion, basically in the upstream level. And basically November 2022, I launched my own consulting company called In the Zone. And with the purpose to share my knowledge and experience to all the operators to help them to improve the safety, efficiency, and more cost effective in their operations.
Excellent. Very good. Got the elevator pitch down. Love it. All right. So with that, I will go ahead and make this an official start and begin with a heartfelt introduction. Any of you that know me know, if I can, I prefer to start with a story. So that's how I'm going to open today as well. I had the privilege and honor of meeting Uma through a mutual connection, our own Dawn Lima, former board member for WOGA. And Dawn had connected with Uma through Michelle Ashby's board program. And I'll let Uma touch on that later on what that means to her. And Dawn, any of you that know Dawn, Dawn is very pragmatic. She is a former Canadian military. She actually told me, I misused the word strategic one time, so she redefined strategic and tactical for me. So that's Dawn. So when Dawn said, "Hey, I want you to meet Uma, let's go out for a glass of wine," I said, "Okay, fantastic. Why? What, tell me about this person." She said, I can't put words around it. You two need to know each other," which is not a very, it was very out of character for Dawn to not have, a very strategic plan on this. So I said, "Okay, great." So we got together. That glass of wine rapidly turned into sharing of entrees and stories, and poor Dawn had to go leave to pick up her kids. So we started at 4:30, and I think we finally wrapped up around 9. And it was such a fantastic conversation. It was one of those nights where we were both literally leaning in. I mean, elbow on the table, just fascinated, super engaged. And one of the takeaways for me that night, and some of you have heard bits of this story, Uma was the first person to ever tell me I was powerful. I had thought of myself in the past as strong, maybe charismatic at times, but powerful put a whole different spin. And for someone who had just met me to have that as a takeaway and to verbalize that to me, I mean, it was life changing that night, and I will always owe her for that. And that is one of the many reasons I have asked her to be our presenter today. Uma has an absolute superpower of cutting through the noise, and that is one of the things she's going to talk to us about today. Uma, and I'm only saying Uma because she's like in the Beyonce one name category to me. She's that level of badass woman. So with that, I am going to let Miss Uma take over and begin officially the presentation. So thank you all for joining us.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You almost made me cry right there. Hello, ladies. I absolutely love being here as a fellow oil and gas retiree. And I just recently celebrate women in mining as well. I jumped from oil and gas into mining. So I'm happy and looking forward to share with you my journey and especially the stuff and the emotional upheavals and roller coaster I had to go through to get here. So this is going to be very interactive. I want you guys to raise your hand and participate and share whatever's been going through, because by no means I still feel this way. I feel like an imposter doing imposter syndrome speaking event. That's how it can get to you. It's we'll go through this. So welcome to your journey. I hope all of you who are here is because you find this topic to be relevant in your life. And it's definitely relevant today in everybody's life. So we want to feel like the boss. We are the boss, but most of the time we kind of end up feeling like we are the fraud, right? So we want to get rid of that feeling, and we want to get to our true purpose in life and not feel like we are apologetic for who we are, right? So first things first, about me. I feel like an imposter after 32 years of doing all sorts of stunts. Okay, I'm gonna try and summarize 33 years in this short slide. So I started off at the age of 14 with Schlumberger, very young in Singapore. I was based in Singapore. Singapore is a huge oil field export area. And in Asia, you start at whatever age, right? So I was studying and I was going to do filing for Schlumberger. It was a branch of Schlumberger called Oilfield and Equipment. It was a logistics arm of Schlumberger. And then by the age of 18, I was interning with Schlumberger and their arms of different branches of Schlumberger and studying. By the age of 21, I am shipped off to Indonesia. As most of you will be well aware, you will start your offshore life. I'm full-time working for the company. My first title is called Management and Technical Advisor of Oil Field Operations and Logistics. I was based in Balikpapan, in remote sites in Batam, and I was managing close to $1 billion worth of equipment, logging equipment, drilling equipment, chemicals, hazardous chemicals, radioactive, anything you guys know what it is, right? Centralizers, from nuts and bolts to things that my 8 oil rigs out in Indonesia needed. Now I work with oil riggers, so laptops would fly, things would fly when equipments are not there on the spot, right? So that's my story. But I held my own. I was pretty graceful. I was like tough. They called me, what did they call me? So some of the vessel operators that brought the barges came in and off would call me dynamite in a small package or baby shoes, because I was that tiny. I'm really tiny. I'm 5'1", with hard hat and overalls, climbing all these oil rigs that you see. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being there. I enjoyed being unique. But by the age of 22, 23, I had enough. I was like done. I was like on full estrogen, just growing balls and pants, and just I had to be one of the boys, and I found myself jobless back home, living with my mom and dad at the age of 23, in debt $15,000, because every money I had, I blew it off partying, giving it away, because nothing made sense. It was a very dark way of living. I was all over Asia. I was in Vietnam, Myanmar, Indonesia, mainly in the deep darks of jungles. This was the height of the IT bubble, so the late 90s, and then the Asian financial crisis, right? We never repeated that again, unlike US. US has done subprime crisis, and now what we're doing. So Asian financial crisis, sorry to bring that up, but we learned the banking system is pretty strong. But what do I do at the age of 23 when I've gone really high up and then come right back down? So I had a few companies knock on my door and say, hey, we have a startup for IT. Can you join us? So I did 3 months here, 3 months there. And then guess who came back and knocked on my door again? Schlumberger. Schlumberger knocked on my door and said, hey, we're building this huge function called Global Oilfield and Logistics Distribution, GOLD for short. And I'm like, okay. We want you to come back and do this huge mega transformation. 8,000 companies' patents we bought. We need to merge everything under one Schlumberger umbrella. It's going to take 7 years. I'm like, ugh. And I got nervous. I had a meltdown. I said, okay. And I put down the phone. I melted down and I cried. I couldn't go back to the field again. I didn't. And my oldest brother, I sat down. I remember I called him and I said, bro, I don't know. He's my mentor and champion, by the way. He's like, I don't know. I can't do this again. It was too dark for me. The oil field is just, I don't know. I can't do it again. And he said, Uma, you have always walked your own track. You have always done everything by your own rules, and you've always walked alone. You can do this. If you're feeling uncomfortable, you're not in the right place, you feel this, do it, because you have to go through this. If you're feeling this way, you know the answer. You have to go through it, come out of it, deal with that trauma, whatever you had, and then move on. And worst case scenario, you can quit. His words rang true till today, that I've always walked my own track, never be apologetic for having to dial up and become someone else to fit into an industry. So I joined Schlumberger for another 7 years, which was some of the best years of my life. I worked with some of the most extraordinary people globally, because we had Mosaic, we had Dubai, and we had Houston. And we had about an army of people trying to bring all of this together. There was violent harassment on my team. There was stakeholder management. There was 18 to 16 hours of working per day. We pulled it through. The company was super awesome in taking care of any problems we had. Harassment? Nope, not in our door. They clean all of that stuff up. Now, you're not always lucky in that situation, but I think something in the team and how I handled it helped in crisis to overcome some of these things. Again, 7 years was over, transformation was done. I was like, I need to get into this consulting business because I felt like an advisor in Schlumberger more than anything. I wasn't operational, I was a division of our own. So I retrenched myself. I moved the headquarters from Singapore to Dubai, combined it, promoted one of my guys, moved him to Dubai, and now he handles Middle East and Asia Pacific. Took out the retrenchment money and decided I'm going to go to Bali and hang out there for a while, until I decide what I'm going to do. So guess who comes knocking on my door within 3 weeks of me in Bali having a beer in an infinity pool? Accenture. How did Accenture find me in Bali? And who is Accenture? I was thinking about consulting. Why is Accenture knocking on my door? Someone in Schlumberger, a good friend of mine, sent my bio to them and said, you got to hire this girl. They were setting up an energy and supply chain global consulting arm in Singapore. And they wanted someone to run it. And I'm like, oh my God, what? I just have to think about, I want to be in consulting, and it happens. So then I'm like, do I leave now? I wanted 6 months of vacation. And so 3 months later, I'm walking into Accenture headquarters in Singapore, which is in the most bling place in the world, on the 33rd floor. You can watch F1 Formula race from the office because it happens around the building. And I'm like, wow, I can get used to this bling life because I used to have hard hats and work among where orangutans used to live. So this I could get used to. 3 years with Accenture, I realized again, my God, how do I deal with this when I cannot sell projects that don't fit the client? I had to do my own thing. So I stood up with my management and said, no, the client doesn't need a $1 billion project of this. It needs a $100 million project of this. And I would defy a lot of my leadership saying, let's do the right thing for the client. Let's undo burnout within our culture, because our consultants, they were young, but they were burning out. They were ending up in hospitals because we would work 16, 17 hours. We would fly from Monday to Friday. We would have Saturday and Sunday, we would fly to the client's office again. No life. And so I tried to change the culture within Accenture. And while I was doing that, I realized I need to have my own consulting company. But I'm not ready yet. I'm too young. I'm not experienced. Remember, I had 3 years of experience with Accenture and I knew exactly the ins and outs of consulting. So I thought, never mind, I need to get back into the industry. And I'm tired of Singapore. I need to go back into the boonies again. Guess who comes knocking on my door? Gold mining, Newmont Mining in Colorado. This was 2008, and through the subprime crisis, gold rockets, the price goes up. And their consulting company was Accenture in US. And so they needed someone of my experience in Singapore to move to Elko, do a project for Newmont Mining. I do a 3-month project in, anybody knows Elko? I lived there for 3 years. I loved it. I love the boonies, by the way. I love working with underground open pit miners on the oil, on an oil rig. I loved the remote sites. So I said, I finished the project, I went home and I just laid it out to them, if you ever have a permanent job in Elko, let me know. 1 year later, they are moving me there. Accenture is blessing me to go to the client and work for them. Newmont is blessing me to work for them in a leadership role in North America based out of Elko. I built my house there. I set up everything there and I'm completely in love with life. I work 4 days, 10 hours, driving a F-350 to the mine site, working a lot alongside big miners, gruffy looking guys who absolutely love me. About 3 years into my gig, headquarters knocks on my door and say, you need to move to Colorado. And I'm like, no, I don't. They go, it's a mandate. And I go, what's happening? Well, you're too influential in the region. We need you closer to headquarters. In brackets hidden, we need to keep a close eye on you. Now, the funny thing is, why didn't you just let me go? If I'm too influential, apparently I'm valuable, but I'm also too scary. That was the message that was coming through. And I had a few godfathers in the company, godfathers. And so they were like, Uma, just move. We need you in global headquarters. You can change the culture of headquarters from within. So just move. So I bit the pill, moved to Colorado, and I did another mega transformation project for Newmont, 4 years, saving close to 500 to $600 million in savings from bottom line. But I wasn't worthy enough for leadership position. It was on a glass ceiling. It was a cinder block. It was a direct cinder block. I had to ride beneath the men to be successful. So my bosses had to protect me. I was wondering, why do you have to protect me? My performance ratings were super high, but there's always one ding. Relationship scores are, you need to be more team worker. And I'm like, name me one person who doesn't like me in the regions. They go, well, it's not the region. I'm like, okay. So you know how you struggle with, what is it am I doing wrong, right? So I leave Newmont after the 4 years of transformation. I say thank you, but no thank you. And then I had a mentor who told me what I was suffering. I was suffering from imposter syndrome. She also said tall poppy syndrome, which has always existed in Australia, where people cut you down for being too good. You're being extraordinarily successful, but they put you down because either they're afraid or they need to promote you, or you can't be too good if you have to be in a certain level. So I kind of defined it and say, well, I'm not going to live like this. I'm not going to live a lie. I left. I bought a house. This was 2017. I bought a house. I left. I didn't have a job, but I sealed the mortgage just in time, within 2 weeks. And then started my company. Since then, it was a struggle, right? It was a struggle to get my company. Nobody knew me outside of Newmont in US. How am I going to get clients? What do I consult on? Talent optimization, supply chain. What do I do? So it's all confusing. Hopscotch to 2019, 2020. Boom, COVID. I'm like, oh, thank you. Thank you for adding on to this pile of confusion. So almost losing my property, almost homeless, thinking I'm from a poor family. So my past trauma of coming from a dirt poor family is picking up, right? I need to go back to work. I need to give up on my company. I can't do this. What the hell was I thinking? Enter my mentor and my champion of 9 years, right? And she was in the boardroom since she was in the 90s in in mining companies. Talk about she not having an imposter syndrome. And that is Michelle Ashby, and we talked about her certification program. She's always wanted me to be a board director. And I would always say things like, I'm too young. I'm not the right skin color. Are you smoking crack, Michelle? Look at me. There are 80-year-olds average in boardrooms. What are you thinking about? And so she calls me up during COVID and she says, how are you holding up? I said, I don't know. I'm contemplating life in deep ways that I should not be contemplating. And she said, well, take the certification. And I said, are you not listening to me? I said, I'm broke and I'm trying to make sure I don't lose the house, which I've now rented out, by the way, and I'm living with my friend. Okay, so that's how bad this is. And she goes, yeah, dig another deep hole in your pocket, and then I'll tell you, you're going to recoup it 100 times over. But you got to trust this process. Put down the phone, and I'm thinking. I'm going, I've always wanted to be in the boardroom, but I've always felt like an imposter. I sign up. 2021, I get my certification. I'm a qualified board director. 2020, I put my nose to the grind. 2021, all I say, everything that comes out in my mouth is board director. I'm a board woman. I'm qualified. Put me in your boardroom. That's all I'm saying to everybody I meet. The janitor, to the restaurateur, to the waiter, anybody I meet, I'm saying the same words. 2022, I land seats in 3 boardrooms. I'm now the chair of the Norm and Com Committee in Cascade Energy, huge company, beautiful. All these boardrooms have men, super powerful, super influential. Vector has 3 mega investor companies in it. And all of them respect me. All of them wanted me. They all said, you are the right person for this role, and got me in. And I'm still going there going, who are these people? What smoke screen are they looking at me through? I mean, so today I'm half retired, right? I spend 50% of my time volunteering at elementary school for special needs. And I go away for vacation for 3-4 months. And I'm thinking, how lucky is this? Bingo, that's the word. I wasn't lucky. It was all great efforts. Imposter syndrome makes you say, I'm lucky. I didn't do this. It was all happened to me. That is imposter. See, you got to keep catching yourself. So I want you guys to think about what is imposter syndrome, and if you do feel it. Now, what best way to do this than to open it up for discussion? Okay, so I want all of you to let's think about yourself, and I want each one of you to, we're going to do a simple test. I want you to introduce yourself, and I'm going to ask a 1-sentence question, right? So you introduce yourself in 1 sentence, and I will ask you a question, okay? And we will see whether you have imposter syndrome or not. And I'll write down whether you do or not, or you check yourself, okay? So I don't know how we're going to do this, but I think Kat or Tien, you can help me, each woman at a time. So whoever wants to go first, you can.
Yeah, I think everyone is unmuted. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'm going to stop sharing so we can have a view of all of us. Anyone wants to go first?
Okay, you want to go first, Jan?
Sure. Hello, my name is Tien. I'm a founder and a principal engineer of InDesign Consulting.
Nice. Wow. How did you manage to pull this job?
On my own. With my
Nice. Nice, nice. The only thing I would say with you is you mentioned about your job. You didn't mention about you. That means you still hide behind your job instead of who you really are.
That's right.
And-
It's gonna take a long story to describe who I am. And
I'm a badass engineer working for this random company. See, the company is not the main thing. The job is not the main thing. It's you, right? Okay, who's going next? I love it. I love it.
I'll jump in. This is Gail. I solve problems. I do
Nice.
consulting work and complex sales, but I really think that what I do is solve problems.
I love it. Wow. So you must have intelligent people around you.
Well, you and I are friends, so there you go. Proves the point.
So the point was you're good. So you got the message here. Yeah. Often we compare ourselves to people around us. So sometimes I hear a lot of women go, you know what? I didn't do it. I had a lot of people, intelligent people around me to help me get there and all that. So that's kind of like hiding behind your accomplishments, trying to be modest. Modesty is good. But when you don't give the due credit to yourself first, yes, I had to struggle through it. And I had a lot of people helping me out, but I tell you, it wasn't easy. Bingo. That's a different way of saying that. You still did it. You still had people around you, but you had to get those people to you. I love it. Thanks, Gail. We need drinks together. Next, Jana, did I see your hand going up? Not pronouncing your name properly, I hope.
Yes. Hi, I'm Jana Early. I am a Wyoming native. I am a mother of 3 children. I am a worker in the oil and gas industry for 17 years, and I am a survivor of many things.
Badass. Sorry, pardon my language. It's part of being on offshore oil rigs. I curse a lot. So I'm going to ask you a question. So have you been promoted a lot within the 17 years?
No, I have not.
Bingo. That's it. If I'm going to receive a promotion and gain recognition, I hesitate to allow myself to believe in it, that I can accomplish it. See, that's the other way. Or like, even if you haven't gotten promoted, you got to ask yourself, why? Why am I being held back?
I would agree with you. It's a very nuanced answer. I'm experiencing a transition right now in my employment, and these are part of the things that I'm examining right now. So
Good. Yeah. After this, you will examine no more. You will just do. Okay. Who else wants to go next? Don't be shy.
I'm gonna call Melanie out.
All right. Okay. I've been practicing some of this because I'm really trying to embrace that, I'm Melanie Adams and I am an energy professional turned entrepreneur, and I am a clothing designer of the most fantastic, comfortable, flame resistant clothing for women.
I love it. I used to buy flame resistant coveralls, made 300,000 savings.
Yeah. Well, I don't make coveralls, but mine are definitely
I
most
love it.
comfortable. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So this is such an amazing achievement for you, wouldn't you say?
Yes. Thank you.
I love it. I like that you.
I just have to leave it there. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And leave it there, because I can also go on about how it's not just me, but
Yes, exactly. That's why. Or the worst case scenario, in this case, when we receive praise and recognition, I do this, right? They go, wow, you're just like how Kat was introducing me. Half my brain was going,
yeah.
No, that's not me. No, maybe, no. So praise and recognition is for our accomplishment. We tend to discount the importance of it because we are women, right? I mean, and most of our women, we want to be modest, like we are doing this stuff. It's nothing big. So I love how you caught yourself. Who's next? You only get this one chance, you guys, or maybe you get another chance, but I don't know. But this is a great opportunity to be out there. Michelle Wyman, I know you.
Yes, we met at a DU event, friend of DU. And
Of
had
course, you know,
coffee
Trilce.
thereafter. Yeah, a couple years ago. So I was excited to see you speaking today. Michelle Wyman, I am sales extraordinaire, a connector, a networker, and a lifetime learner of all things. I'll leave that one there.
Wow, you must have all the answers with that.
No,
Badass
it's a
too.
lifetime learner. Don't have all the answers.
You should have all the answers.
Wise
You should
person.
say yes, because I'm learning a lot. I have all the answers.
Or not yes, but I will.
Yes, exactly. So sometimes we're afraid to discover that, do we have enough knowledge? Do we have enough ability? Maybe we lack knowledge. Knowledge is not a problem. You can acquire it all the time. You can read, you can take certifications, blah, blah, blah. I love that you're a lifelong learner, but I would say you're a lifelong solution provider. You come up with the solutions. You always come up with ideas, and right. So learning is great, but if you don't apply it, it's nothing, right?
Good point.
Imposter syndrome. Don't discredit your capabilities. Who else wants to go? If you're shy, don't worry. We'll take about 2 more so we can move on.
I will pick Rhonda.
Darn it.
Talk about imposter syndrome.
My name is Rhonda Gathers. I am the Vice President of Engineering and Operations at Rampart Energy Company. I have been in the industry for going on 28 years now. And I'm a mother of 2 boys and a wife, and that's it.
Wow, you must be very content with where you are at.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. So I mean, some of us will be like, yeah, it's okay. I still have more to do. We always feel disappointed sometimes about our accomplishments, but Rhonda, it looks like you're very contented and happy, which is the ultimate goal, right? It's not about, I mean, I don't climb ladders. I set it on fire these
Yeah.
days. Anybody else wants to go before we move on? Chris Bra on point. Another Michelle cohort, I believe. No.
Hey, Oma, I'm late to the game. Because
No problem.
So what was the question again?
Okay, the question, so what we want you to do is introduce yourself in one sentence, and I will ask you a question and we will figure out whether you feel like you have imposter syndrome. You may not have it, but whether your replies are coming off like you have imposter syndrome.
All right. So this doesn't make me comfortable right now, but I'll do it anyways. I'm Chris Pratt, and I am co-founder, CEO of On Point Consulting. And so this makes me uncomfortable because I heard Tien talk, and I heard your comment at the end of hers saying that she's got a lot tied to her identity tied to her job. And I know I'm like, oh yeah, that's me right there. So I don't even know what else to say to that. Like, yeah, my whole last 3, 4, or 5 years has been building a business. So my identity really has been my business. And
it's not a problem at all. I have the same thing. I have a business and I've bought stuff, and I have to go between who am I as a person, and sometimes I'm hiding behind the business, even though it's my baby. I love the business. It's who I am. And then, my mentor had to tell me, like, on the website, she said, you don't have any pictures of yourself. That means you're hiding behind the business. The business is you. So talk about you. Don't talk to me about Leading Lotus. Talk about you. I'm like, I didn't think about it that way. Right? So it is you. Your business is you. Your identity is you. And then the business is you. Does that make sense?
It does. I see that. Yeah. I think you just have to probably stand stronger behind that. Yeah, I am my business right now, and I'm proud about it.
You are the face. Yep. You are the face of On Point. There you go.
Thank you.
Beautiful. All right. If anybody else wants to volunteer now, speak now. If not, I'm moving on. Okay, ladies. Did I see a hand raise? Sorry, I still have some notes here so I can read to that. I'm going to start sharing. Okay. So what is imposter syndrome, right? So if you feel that your company or the place that you work at, or you yourself, your own business you're supposed to look like these people on the A side, right? But in reality, most companies, people look like the B side, right? Not every time can you look like this kumbaya thing on the left, right? So, and then you got to ask yourself, am I really happy, or am I portraying to be someone else? And do I feel this false sense of fake it till I make it? Here's the problem. Whenever you say these words, I'm going to fake it till I make it, you're having an imposter syndrome, because you're telling yourself, I have to be a fake to be someone. No, right? We discount our qualifications and then we misrepresent ourselves. We lie to ourselves, right? Our inexperience equates to being unqualified, non-qualified. That's two different things. If you don't have enough knowledge, experience, you can get it, but that doesn't mean you're not qualified. This is where resumes, we as women have problems on our resumes, because we are always saying, we did this, we did that, we did this, we did that. We are never saying we are a leader. We moved a mountain. And the certification that I did in ACE, they really taught me how to re-represent myself about the task I did that helped the company save 200, 300, over $1 million, right? Led the whole project for 4 years. No life, professional, just professional life, that's it. So you got to really think about the imposter syndrome. Catch yourself when you're telling yourself you're not enough, you're not worthy, I haven't done enough. that person is, this is the worst thing that happens in companies today. It's called pluralistic ignorance. What that means is collectively, we individually sit across each other going, that person is much better than us. I'm not, I suck. And that person is thinking the same thing. In a plural way, we all are ignorant that someone else is having an imposter syndrome. It cannot happen to someone else. It's just me. No, this thing called the imposter syndrome, call it the imposter phenomenon, imposterism, imposter experience. It happens to 80% of men. It happens to 90% of women. It happens to 99% of people of color and from societies where they haven't come from good wealth and all of that stuff, right? So marginalized communities. And it's not a disease, it's not a mental issue, it's a condition, it's a phenomenon. That's why they call it a phenomenon. And it happens to a lot of us. It happens to, look at the Oscars recently. So the Oscars, you have Jamie Lee Curtis, you had Michelle Yeoh. All of them had imposter syndrome. Tom Hanks had imposter syndrome. And you would hear, whenever you Google imposter syndrome, Maya Angelou, 11 books later, she still felt like a fake. Albert Einstein felt like a fake. Google him up and you will read that Albert Einstein felt like he didn't deserve anything. Tom Hanks didn't think he was an actor at all. After winning 3 Academy Awards, he still felt like a fake. Meryl Streep was quoted saying in US Weekly, she said, I don't know why I'm in this industry. I need to quit. I don't know how to act. Right? So you are not alone. Now, here's how you need to catch yourself. If you're at the work environment, you have to do a project, you have to stand in front of leadership, or you have a crisis at your hand, you have people issues, or you have manager issues, you're feeling anxiety. And then you dial up perfectionism. You might have all or one of these, right? So don't worry about it. You're a perfectionist. You spend hours, like me, in Accenture, blowing up presentation slides to 300%, trying to make lines meet exactly. And before you know it, it's 10 freaking PM and you haven't had dinner and you're like, I'm going to be in the hospital. I'm starting to shake. That truly happened to me. I was on Unilever project. I ended up in the hospital thinking it was a heart attack. It was very bad reflux, which stuck around for another 2 months. My team burnt out so fast that one girl just sat in the office, blanked out, and she just sat there for hours looking into space. I had to sit next to her, call her husband, send her to hospital. Right. So we are a perfectionist because we overproof ourselves. We want to prove that we can't have a simple mistake that people can identify as we are unqualified. That's imposter syndrome. Third thing, fear of failure. So we grind and grind and grind. We think failure is it's not acceptable. We grew up like that, thinking, oh my God, if I fail, that means my whole world will collapse. I can never pick myself up again. And then self-doubt. We all have self-doubt. Trust me. We are sitting there and doubting ourselves all the time. I still self-doubt myself in boardroom meetings. I'm sitting there going, I'm going to open my mouth. It may not come out intelligent. Like, dude, you already got the job. You've been in the board meetings for a whole year. So reading this, right? You guys feel like a fraud much sometimes? I still do, trust me. I'm a speaker. I'm on TEDx's boardroom. I curate speaking events. I can't speak. I don't go up and speak anymore. I do the online speaking. I've done speaking events before when I was in my 20s. And not in America. I mean, it was in Asia. It was easier for some odd reason. Now that I've had corporate America experience, I feel like I'm not qualified. So see how experiences hit you differently and you absorb it differently. Now, one thing I would say is that a lot of how you are experiencing imposter syndrome and how you're feeling anxiety, perfectionism, the fear of failure and self-doubt is to do with your past traumas. Okay. We're not going to go into too much detail of that, but I can tell you from a personal experience, I came from a poor family. I came from a family of alcoholism. My dad was. And there's no room for emotions. There's no room for vulnerability. Vulnerability in my mind was for losers, right? Your mom ran the whole household on tip top because she had to put on the pants and be the man, be the father, and then your brothers were there for you. So I was really lucky in my life because I had siblings who are amazing still. But I just thought that, all right, fear of failure, I picked up fear of failure. And then as I was growing up, my aunts and uncles was telling my mom, well, don't worry, because our family was poor. Some of them were not poor. You can always marry her off. They would say that too in front of me. She won't amount to anything. She doesn't have the brains. So my mom is a tiger. She went berserk on them and said, I will prove you wrong. And she made me study. She made me go to university. I was the only one in the entire family. None of my cousins went to the National University of Singapore. Today, she would go back and rub that in their nose and say, look, my daughter lives in US and she has a business and this is right? Because I had a fear of failure. I had self-doubt. Those experiences build into you. And then as you grow into working offshore, working in Accenture, working in Newmont, all this little nagging, performance rating are the worst, I'm telling you, which comes to our second point. The poppy syndrome. I'm a person today in my consulting company, I tell all my clients, don't do performance rating. Take it and burn it. Tall poppy syndrome is a syndrome that is called cut the poppy. Poppies grow tall, and so they like to cut it down in Australia because they don't want it to stand out. So can you see? If you stand out too much, people put you down because they do not like your successes, right? That's a very different culture and values that Australia and New Zealand seem to inherit from the past. So that's where the tall poppy syndrome came about, right? The worst thing to do is, even if you don't have past traumas, our performance ratings, you are being assessed, or you assess yourself like a third party. Oh, Uma did great today, I think, this quarter, maybe. Uma, how did you do? You're rating yourself on someone else's standards of success. That is the biggest problem. And then someone else is rating you back saying, oh, I don't think it's 4, maybe you're a 3 or a 2. Why are we rating ourselves on a number when we know collectively what we do on a daily basis cannot be quantified? It cannot be truly quantified. So when we're going through performance rating reviews, in certain companies, consulting companies, you are in a banding situation too. Whoever, if there's only this much of money in the pile, so we can't give ratings of 4s and 5s and 6 to everyone. We need to shift people force them into numbers, right? So you get the message back as, you're not good enough. You're not worthy of this bonus. You're not worthy of this rating. Guess what happens to you mentally? I got to put more effort into this. I'm not doing well. I didn't get my bonus this much. I didn't get my performance rating. I'm not going to get my promotion. What happened? Right? How many of you feel that way? Does this kind of make sense? Okay. So now let's talk about the solution. Okay. How do you go from a poppy to a lotus? The difference between a lotus and a poppy is lotus comes out really high, right? That's why I name my company Leading Lotus. It comes out from muddy, murky, very bad environment. You can't put your foot in a lotus pond without getting sucked in and swallowed. But lotus plants and flowers bloom out of these ponds, and they are self-cleaning. So they always look pristine and beautiful, and they greet the sun every morning. And then by nightfall, they go back in. to the muddy, murky pot water. And then they'll come back. They'll do that every day to shine and go back. This is why lotus is revered in a lot of ancient cultures. And water lilies as well, they are close. And this thing has been around for 400 million years. So it's not a new plant. It's really a super plant. So the ideology behind the lotus is you can be surrounded by this muddy, murky mess of tragedy and people calling you not enough, people telling me, are you sure you want to set up your own business? What are you going to do for money? Okay, that's not helping me. That's the mud. But I got to lift myself through that mud and shine. So how do I do that? How do I tell myself I'm not a fake? I'm not fraudulent. I'm not making it because I'm faking it. I am who I am. Well, first things first, believe that you are unique, okay? No one else can tell you what you can and cannot do. Know who you are, first of all, okay? Don't define yourself as, oh, I'm a worker, I'm a failure. Failure and the event of failure, disconnect that. If you fail at something, you're not a failure. The event failed. You didn't fail. It's just something didn't work out. So disconnect yourself. Don't call yourself, don't define yourself on an event, okay? Make sure you know internally what you want to do, your purpose in life is. I mean, we all talk about purpose, but literally throughout all my career, I knew what my purpose was. It was always to help people. That's it. How you help them? In any way you can. So I volunteer in schools because it wasn't enough to sit in a boardroom. I go work with elementary kids school who are autistic. So know yourself. It's not one or another. Appreciate you. Nobody's going to appreciate you. You have to appreciate you. Yes, your mom, your dad, maybe your children, your husband, they will do so much to appreciate you, or in a half-ass sort of way, pardon to say that. But only you can love yourself and appreciate what you've gone through and you've went through. So give yourself a break. Love yourself completely. Today, I always say, who do you love most? Well, apart from my mom, I love myself most and my two big brothers. Maybe if I have a relationship in my life, I will say, yes, that person too. But I come first, my mom comes first, right? So that's how I operate today. Who matters most? Remember who you're doing this for, okay? You are not doing this to impress other people. You're doing this, who matters most? For me, it's my mom. I'm not doing this to impress her. I'm doing this to pay back for all of the hardship she went through. And I can't go through into everything she's done because it would make me break down and cry, because she was an exceptional mom. So if she's happy, that's it. I'm done. I'm successful. I'm content in life. Remember how I asked you guys, are you contented in your life? Yeah, I'm contented in life. I can die happily because my mom is happy, right? Who matters most? And here's the thing, my mom, my two big brothers, my sister-in-law and everybody else, but essentially these three people, my dad has passed away, and he was too, are so happy and so proud of me that they don't go by a day without telling me how amazing I am. And those are the three people that matter to me, and my niece and all of that. But yes, essentially those three people, if I don't disappoint them, is who I live for. Positive chatter. Remember this, we have a lot of negative chatter, no matter chatter in our heads, negative talk, self-talk, bad talk. Catch yourself, right? This is not only a imposter syndrome thing to do. This is to do with all the negative unwiring we need to do. You got to rephrase everything in your mind. You got to look at anything that's like doubting in your mind. You got to switch it into a positive chatter. And it took me a long time to do this. Remember, when I set up my company, I was so angry with corporate America. I was so angry with the cinder block. I was so in my negative back talk, like, how dare did they do this? How did they put me in a corner? I was so negative that my business suffered. People could sense the vibe. Clients would come to me, they could sense the vibe of me talking bad about my situation. They didn't feel comfortable with me advising them when I was still struggling with my own anger. So I switched. I went through a lot of, I wouldn't say therapy, but mentors and champions and my own meditation. My idea of meditation, folks, is not, I can't shut my eyes and shut my mind. I just walk in a forest. I just walk and hike, stare at lakes and rivers. That's what I do. Stare at the sky quite a lot. That calms me down and puts me in a positive energy. So make sure you have that positive chatter. Hunt change. I have a friend who's a speaker. He's a really extraordinary speaker. His name is Sterling Hawkins. He's got a company and brand name Hunting Discomfort. And he's lost about $550 million for a company and has lived from a penthouse and into his parents' bedroom, one of his parents' house bedroom, at the age of 28 from Silicon Valley. And he describes how it was to do something you knew all your life and then have nothing and failed, and then live through that discomfort and come out the other way and become successful again. So for him, you got to hunt discomfort, which means if something is uncomfortable, some of you said you are uncomfortable, go through it. Don't avoid it. Go through it, sit through it, come out the other side. This is what I did when my brother said, you got to go through it when Slumberjay came knocking on our door. I didn't want to be in offshore, offsite, 2 years here, 2 years there, 2 years in Myanmar, 2 years in Dubai, 2 years in Norway, Oslo. I didn't want to do that again. It was just so tiring. But he said, go through it. Make your own terms. So hunt the change. If you're in a rut, don't be in a rut. Change. Invest, invest, invest. The board certification was hefty. I told you I dug a lot of hole in my pockets. I invested in myself. Today, I invest in my health, my well-being, my, exercising more. I put money in everything to do. I invest in financial instruments because I want financial freedom. Women don't think about those things. I bought a house when I quit my job. It was always an investment property. Today, it's 150% in equity. And some CEO is living there and paying me cash for it every year. I didn't think about that when I bought the house, but it happened. So invest. And know this, you're not alone. Everybody feels this way at certain point, at certain intervals, and they're just faking it as much as they can. So have the empathy for them. If they're coming out to you like a jerk, something is going on with them because they have imposter syndrome as well. So you can find the empathy to change that conversation with them. Okay, there are a lot of tricks and traits I use today to change it. If someone's coming to me and, gaslighting me, I'm like, really? That's interesting. That's coming out from you. Tell me more about how you're feeling. Bingo, that ends the conversation there. Name it. Name your situation. If you're feeling like you don't belong there, name it. What is it? Is it tall poppy? Is it imposter syndrome? And then go in to fix that feeling. If you don't have enough experience, go get experience. Go get a training. If you don't feel like you have the knowledge, go Google some stuff. It can be fixed. You are qualified. You've come this far. Okay. Finally, be aware. Be very aware. Catch yourself. Catch yourself. As soon as you're like, oh, no, it's not me. It's not all me. Thank you. But whoa. Yeah, no, I did it. It was a struggle. I had a lot of help. But yeah, thank you for noticing that. See how you catch yourself? And be frozen. And by frozen, I mean the movie, Elsa's movie. Let it go. Forget it. Let it go. Don't hold on to control. Things have to happen this way. That comes to perfectionism, right? Let it go. I don't control anything anymore. I work with Down syndrome kids and autistic kids and of all spectrum. You can't control. I tell you, I'm a control freak. Try working with them. That's why I still work there, because it teaches me how to let go and just go for the ride, go with the flow. Now, before we open up, I want to leave you. And last thing, you define your own success. Success could be anything. For me today, it's not the big jobs. I call myself retired because that's what I want to be. I want to be retired and helping kids. That's all I want to do, and go on 3, 4, 5 months of vacation. That's what I do today. That for me is success. I travel. I love traveling. But before we end this, I want to leave you with what I used to say, and I still do say, is there's nobility in your thoughts, right? There's always a noble thought. It is someone from your deep within your soul. That's where you are at always. What you do with it will define your legacy. So you have to define clearly what is compelling you. You have to define who you are to get to what you do in life. Now, with that, I'd like to open it up for conversations. I couldn't see most of your faces because I had the PowerPoint presentation. So I don't know whether you are like bored out of your mind eating pizza. So feel free to share if this was.
I think this is really good. That all of your points is really jive with me. I went through a spiritual and still on the path. I started my spiritual path since last year after an event, and it changed my life so far. So what you mentioned on the Lotus, definitely right on. Just have to love yourself, know what's your passion, know what's your dream, and you make it happen. And you have to have the belief, and just, the nature, the universe will take care of you, actually. Just believe it or not.
I love that. I love that, because remember, I'm here today not in spite of all those things that happen, not in spite of the naysayers, the poppy slaughterers, the failures, right? I've had serious failures, and I've done a lot of dodgy stuff. Remember, I lived offshore and had to pay under table, buy prostitutes. I'm going to be very open. I did those things when I was in the 20s, probably why I'm still not married. But I am here because of those things. So I would never exchange my experience for anything. Everything was a learning situation, like Michelle said, right? Everything is a learning situation. You build upon that, right? You dial up your inner strength. You have great mental training from those things. What you do with that is where you define yourself, right? If you don't use that to your benefit, then you are not going to go past where you're stuck at. So you got to use that to your benefit.
Definitely. I mean, you mentioned a lot about, talk about you. So there's actually 4 things, okay? There will be the outside world, which is you don't have any control over. Things that happen through your life, or, people is still defined as outside world. You don't create it. Or the trees, or, the weather, you have no control over. The second thing is your mind. Very powerful, yet it's dangerous. They talking all the freaking time, and it control, your thought, and it send a signal to create your emotion. Your anxiety is not you. Basically, the thought in your mind create it and send a signal and create the anxiety. So that's a third leg, your emotion, and that was not you neither. And yous are the fourth one that you need to be able to separate and recognize the word, your mind, and your emotions. Detach from it. It sounds easy, extremely difficult. Because entire your life, or entire my life, up to the point of last year, everything is just commingled together. I was a control freak, always. I feel anxiety all the time about my kid, about my job, a lot of things. And just the best thing to do is just let it go, and you'll be fine.
And that's what this happens to women a lot more, because we do juggle a lot more things.
Yep.
Okay, we do. Men do too, but they have a different element altogether than women do. Let's not kid ourselves about that, right? We should get more pay than men, because we do unequally support more stuff. We support moms and dads and raise kids and do societal work, buy groceries Sometimes we cook, sometimes we don't cook. We try to be healthy. We try to have a positive mindset. We're doing a lot, right? So that's what we do. Now, I find myself in my past, I always wait for someone else to tell me how to feel about myself. I'm always waiting for feedback from others. Why? Why am I waiting for someone else to tell me how am I doing? You should know how you're doing. You should know how you are built to deal with crisis in your life. If you're the type that something happens and you come up with a solution and you fix it, but you never get accolades for that, that's you. You're a good person. You're a great person. You don't need someone else to tell you that. Forget about other people, right? Anyone else wants to share their moments and their experiences in this imposter syndrome? And I know sometimes you don't want to implicate the companies that you're working for, so I don't care anymore. That's a great part about being in boardrooms and having less imposter syndrome. You can't get rid of it 100%, but you can control it. Okay, you can control it. That's where we are like, but I can't get rid of it. Why? It just comes up, be aware, knock it off, Uma, move on. Go ahead, Jenna.
I wanted to say that I really related to the analogy of the tall poppy of being in the company I work for has been under new management for about 2 years now, and the new management expectation is that people who seem to be getting more recognition and more moving more mobility within the company are people who are more compliant and more moldable into positions to where they don't give a lot of feedback that doesn't suit the narrative that the management is pushing with their
It's called the yes man syndrome that the other people have, right?
Exactly.
And I've been there.
And so while people that one of the things I've struggled with my direct manager is having to have frank conversations with him about not using words to describe me, such as outspoken or aggressive, or
I've been called aggressive.
I don't want any of those words describing me. What I want is to be recognized as someone who is thinking proactively for solutions about the task in front of me. And if that includes bringing up negative aspects of the challenges that I'm feeling, that doesn't make me outspoken. That doesn't make me aggressive. It doesn't make me a person who doesn't fit the mold. It makes me someone who's thinking hard. I'm thinking hard about the challenges presented to me, and I have to think about the good and the bad in every situation I'm placed in. And I think that having those conversations with my male manager and saying, don't use those words to describe me, and not saying, please don't use those words to describe me. I didn't use the please word. I said, do not use those words to describe me because they're not accurate. And I feel like without making it all about gender, men don't go through that. Men don't get described that way, but women do.
Yeah, and that has happened to me many times. I've been called aggressive. Here's a story. I was in a meeting and I said, well, that looks risky here. The risk assessments I've done. Should we look into that? And then the guy next to me said the same thing. And then I said, that's what I said. And he said, oh, you're coming off aggressive. Like, oh, good God.
And I would also add that it's also okay to be aggressive, because how many of us have sat in a meeting with men who very aggressively state their point of view, and they are it's never looked at as hostile. It's always looked at as a leadership quality. So
separate yourself from that, disconnect. So whenever your male manager's gaslighting you, because that's what they've been known to do. They've been trained that way. So they don't know they're doing that. They don't know otherwise either. A lot of mid-management male who then go on to become CEOs do not know that this is an issue. How how I do it is, first of all, when that happens, I don't take it personally. I just say, oh, is that how I'm coming off? Actually, I was just trying to portray a solution, but let's get back to the solution here. Let's get back to the information here. So you disconnect from whatever they said. It's not me, but that's how you feel. Go ahead. But let's come back to what's important here and fix this right now, buddy. So don't take it personally.
That's good advice.
Yes.
I have a hard time separating it from being personal to not being personal.
Yeah, because you have to know who you are. It comes back to the solution. Know who you are.
Yeah.
Nobody else defines you.
Yeah.
Nobody calls you passionate, aggressive, and all of that. Guess what? I can be very aggressive. And that's one day I did tell the guy, you know what? You think this is aggressive. You haven't seen what aggressive is. He backed off.
Yeah.
Never messed with me ever again. Because one, I wasn't afraid of losing my job. I was like, fire me. Let's go. Let's bring in the lawyers. I wouldn't tell you to do that, but I was at a
No.
place where I was done with it. I was done with being put in places where I am the problem. And I was absorbing that. I started to think I am the problem. I must be the problem. Why am I the problem? I am the problem. Jesus, I'm not the problem. Right? Who else wants to share? Here's another question for you guys. Does any of this resonate with you? Yeah, you can raise your hand.
All right.
Gail?
Gail, oops,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, go
talked
ahead,
over
Gail.
you. Just a quick interjection, and it all resonates. In particular, the experiences the other people have had, and just hearing the women. I really enjoy the having people introduce themselves, and of course, you gave us hints. So the way I would normally do that, I did not.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take that forward. There are so many things I'm going to take forward, but that one, I particularly appreciated. So thank you to everyone. Obviously to Uma, this is a marvelous, marvelous presentation, but I really appreciate the people who participated and shared as well.
Oh my God, Gail, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Ladies, I'm going to tell you one thing that has happened in my life. The people that I thought that had my back, some of them women, did not have my back. Because, and I don't blame them for that, because they always operated on a lag basis. If I promoted someone, I'm lacking an opportunity. Remember this. We women, which is why Michelle Ashby's program is super awesome, because as a cohort, we support each other. We put each other in boardrooms. That's how we drive. Dawn is one of my amazingly close connections, and I try to put her in boardrooms. We did the training together the second time, and it was amazing. So remember, you have to promote other women. If you see them, catch them imposing you on a tall poppy syndrome, maybe they're cutting you down, you tell them, you call them out. Lady, you either can help another fellow woman or you can cut us down. Decide where you want to be, right? You are mentor and champion for every other person. It's not me. I had my mentor and champion. I am also a mentor and champion for the same person. She needs it as much as I do, okay? Anybody else wants to comment?
Here's the truth. When you just got out from college, you are super ambitious, especially that women from international, you grew up poor, you fight so hard to get into college or school, got a really good job corporations. And tell me, is it true, Uma? I feel like you and me have really similar path on that end. And you feel like you have to be the best of the best, the top of everything. You like a bitch. I'm sorry to use that language, but oh my, I mean, it's just like you have to drown everyone down so you can float up into the top. At some point it was
Yeah.
maybe it didn't feel it's right. And me today is very different. I see somebody else success, I'm happy for them. And if I see somebody in the struggle, I'm gonna jump in and help. Doesn't matter, it's man or woman. And that is how
I love that. And you know what?
you mature
That's true.
as life goes.
Absolutely. I used to get dinged for saving people who didn't have the voices, because my management would say, oh, you're not focusing on these things. You're too busy helping these people. And I'm like, well, you just cut the budget on safety harnesses. So my underground miners are falling off the roof and dying. So let's think about this for a second. You want me to save money, but you want me to kill people. Guess why I didn't get, guess why I had a cinder block instead of a glass ceiling. I couldn't control my mouth. Just couldn't, just logic wasn't happening at corporate headquarters, right? Regions were fine, but I always had a problem with corporate headquarters. I guess I always had problem with authority, which I guess that's why I have my own company now.
I love that analogy, by the way. The cinder block instead of the glass ceiling, that's absolute genius. One question that I wanted to ask you, Uma, is now that you're in that role, especially on the committee that you're on about compensation, can you tell us a little bit more about what are you doing personally and how are you helping empower the women to start closing the gap more?
Absolutely. So first of all, when in a nomination compensation committee and governance, we want to make sure that, first of all, on the governance side, the shareholders have a say in it. So I have to make sure I manage it very well. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we have board directors in a company that are diverse enough and authentic enough to bring a skill set that's needed for the company, for the management. So in this case, I'm actually in the midst of hiring a third board director, independent, right? So this company that I'm on, Cascade, is an ESOP company. Great heart and soul. They didn't want to sell the company for billions to another company. They just sold it back to the employees and have a trust fund managing it. So ESOP is awesome. I would never work for a public listed company. Maybe if I needed more money, I would. But in a board, I mean, sitting in a boardroom for public listed means you're talking to shareholders and it's all about profit. With an ESOP, it's about the health of the employees and the growth of the company. So the things that we look at is what are the skill sets that's missing in the boardroom, right? So and diversity is very high. In fact, it's funny because when I just finished the board meeting last week in Oregon, my male counterpart, independent board director, who's the COO of Moog, there's only 2 of us who was independent out of the 6. The others are all founders of the company. So internal, 30 over years, great heart and soul, but still they're not independent, right? They're emotionally attached to the company. So they were saying, well, I have a friend who's like this. I have a friend who's like this. And then the CEO of Moog said, we need more women. Just flat off the top. He said, we need more women. We only have Uma right now out of the 6 of us. We're going to add a 7th. We need to have a diversity. I agree with all the board skill sets, but we need another woman to balance this off. There's too much testosterone in the room. How awesome is that? Right? And so what I do is I take the skill set, I go to all the women on board associations and say, I need a woman in this, find me. And then we also do that for all of the normal lines and pipelines on the National Association of Corporate Directors. Whoever comes on the pipeline, we're going to assess them. But we do put more weightage for having a woman on the boardroom to balance it off.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute too, because I didn't do the full-blown program, but I did Michelle's kind of mini course.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really resonated for me on that is Michelle is trying to shift away from tokenism and what we saw in the 70s through recently, unfortunately, with affirmative action, that kind of thing. She not only is on a mission to get women on boards, she's on a mission to get women to be qualified to be on boards. And that's one of her biggest messages. And it's so critical to know that, because that enables people like Uma to have that list and know that, okay, these women are certified. They're not just going to be tokens. They're not going to be the pretty face in the boardroom. They're going to be there. They're going to have the resume. They're going to have their elevator pitch. They're going to have the chops to be in there.
Absolutely. And you know, the certification I did, right, Michelle certificate. There's a lot of certification, by the way. There's NACDs, there's Women on Board, and I think one of them just shut down. But hers by far is the highest success rate. Her mission is 1,000 women in the boardroom by a certain date. She's closing in on 100, and we've only trained about less than 200, which is a high rate of women getting on boards. The cohort that I was in 2020, end of 2020, Salam Cole Smith, she was taking the training and managed to get on the board of Gap and Disney. And not because of her background, not because of her professional. I mean, she was VP of one of the entertainment business out there. But because most of the training spent time digging into who we are, breaking our biases of ourselves down, going into past trauma, we were qualified, right? We are taking the certification, we know we can be in a boardroom. We've all done work that involves some way that boards needed to decide on. You don't need to be in a boardroom or facing a boardroom to be in a boardroom. But so she did a lot of imposter syndrome management and retraining our brains. She did a lot of women come together, we are powerful. And that's why when I met Kat, I said, oh my God, I could recognize that straight off the bat. She was powerful. She is powerful. All of you are powerful. I can
Okay,
see
so
your
it's
faces.
now
You're
official.
amazing.
There was
Even Chris, look at that.
So I don't think I told you, but one of the running jokes with every lean in we do is I have to verbalize when I get goosebumps. It's been an official meeting, and that was the moment. It was actually the second set, but yeah, there they were. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am going to give the time warning. We're at 6 minutes left. I am happy to stick around longer, especially today. I want to make one announcement before I lose the rest of you. Melanie reminded me that we have an incredible opportunity coming up April 25th. The Queen Badass herself, Jen Sincero, is going to be in Boulder. And we have got, I believe there are a total of 8 seats in the third row for the VIP experience, which will include going backstage and having one-on-one time with Jen. I know we've got at least 3 or 4 tickets left. Melanie has agreed to be a sponsor. So Ember is sponsoring some of those tickets. So if any of you are available and interested, please reach out to her directly. I'm not sure exactly how she's distributing them at this point, but she did ask me to bring it up again. So want to make sure that you all are aware of that. It's going to be an epic evening. So hope to see some of you there. With that,
Kat, I'm sorry, can you repeat who you were speaking of and what this event is? Because there was like a bunch of feedback all of a sudden. I couldn't hear who you were talking about.
Sorry, I'll get closer to my mic here too. Jen Sincero, the author of You Are a Badass. Boulder, April 25th. I don't know the time off the top of my head. I'm going to say 7 p.m., but I could be lying.
I think it's 8.
Is it 8? Okay, because we're also talking about getting together first, maybe meeting for drinks, appetizers, something like that. I'll put in an endorsement for Gemini. If any of you have not yet been to Gemini in Boulder, they opened a year ago, January, and it's a tapas place right on Pearl Street. It's like 2 blocks away from the venue. My daughter was their pastry chef at one time. So she's not anymore, but I still like to go there. It's that good. So yeah, so that is the scoop on it, Rhonda. So please reach out to Mel Adams if you're interested in joining us. I will definitely be there. I actually bought the 8-pack, so now we're just trying to figure out the best way to distribute it. Are you gonna be there, Uma? Are you going that night?
Me, yes.
Okay.
I,
No, I heard Tia. I asked Uma if she was going.
Oh,
'cause she was
Uma.
nodding like she
I
was.
definitely go. I was just checking my calendar. I love it.
Right
I
on.
want to be there. You are badass. Yep, we all are badass.
And even if you can't attend the meet and greet or get one of those 8 tickets, if you still want to join us for eating ahead of time or eating and then just going and getting a ticket, that's a thing too that I'm working with Melanie on.
Yeah, because they've got the cheap seats are what,
Yeah.
$25 or something. They're very
Yep.
reasonable. The VIP package is, I think after fees, it was about $150. So all depends on what you want to get out of it. I'm gonna go fangirl. Boom, there's the show. Oh,
Even if
and
it's
I
just to
believe,
eat.
I was gonna say, I believe it also comes with a signed copy of the 10th anniversary edition of the book too. So that was, yeah, we book clubbed it last year for those of you who were not yet members or weren't attending. We try and pick a book every year. This year I'm actually flipping it a little bit, in part because some people didn't finish the book, although they did show up for the book club and still participated, which was awesome. I'm going to make it a little bit easier this year, and we're going to do a TED Talk. So I will release what TED Talk it is, and we can do it live at the December meeting and discuss it. It's a super fun one. I think you all enjoy. So, all right. Other comments before we go our separate ways, ladies? This was amazing. Uma, thank you so much. It was everything I was hoping for and more.
Oh gosh, thank you so much. It's a blessing for me too. I mean, I'm not doing this because I'm told to do or whatever. It's a blessing because I learn a lot that I'm not alone. I still feel alone sometimes. It just comes and goes. So this helps me a lot. Thank you.
Well, and that's one thing I will say, and to some of the things that you were saying earlier, Jana, too. This group of women is so incredible, and this program, and that's what got Uma and I really going. Is I was just a participant early on. I wasn't one of the first members of WOGA, but once I went to my first lean in, I got sucked in, and so I basically have had the privilege and honor of setting up the speakers for the last year and a half, and it's been absolutely one of the most amazing things that keeps me going every day.
And trust me, ladies, I'm in women in mining. Women in oil and gas is much more cohesive and together. Mining has a long way to go before women can find their voice it's a dinosaur industry compared to oil and gas.
Which is truly disturbing.
Couple
I think
things.
oil and gas is actually the dinosaur industry, but
Yeah,
Oh.
literally.
Ba-dum-bum.
Oh, that was bad. That
So we
was so
digging,
bad it was good.
digging all the fossils. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't read it, it's backwards, but I start all of my conference calls with a bad dad joke, so.
It actually
There
came
you
through,
go.
right?
Now you could add the version too. Your own joke. I have a couple things
Love
to
it.
say, Kat, real quick. I think somebody asked for the link for the training course that
I
Uma was
will-
talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, for the
ACE
ACE course.
And
What I will
then-
do is I will PDF the presentation, the ACE links, and send it to Kat.
Yeah, and actually, Uma, if you could add some of the other ones in there too that we didn't talk about, like the talent optimization.
Yes,
I would love to
predictive
know more
index.
about that tool, and
Yeah.
if you've got a link for that too, that'd be awesome. For TEDx, I think that's
TEDx
great.
is awesome.
Because I know you all, I would assume, are aware of TED. Are you familiar with TEDx? So it's-
TEDx Mile here is one of the
Heard it.
biggest in the world, by the way. It's we've come to our 12th year anniversary. We had 600 conferences and we only do 2 or 3 per year. And we have sold out every time, even just post COVID. So I can dig out sponsors to provide tickets if you guys are interested. It comes, the next conference is in June. So yeah, June. It's always an inspirational speech. So It's great
I
to
knew
come
Melanie
out there.
went last time.
Did you? Nice.
Melanie from Ember went.
Ah,
I'm still kicking myself for not going when I.
don't
had
worry,
the
don't worry. I'll get.
opportunity last time.
I'll get
The one more
tickets
thing I
for this.
wanted to say, Kat, is I know you're stepping down from Lean In next year. So if somebody does
Ooh.
want to take on Lean In or partner with somebody on Lean In.
Yes, thank you, Leah, because I am absolutely, I mean, I'm not going to let go 100% because I can't. It is now part of my being. But I will happily help anyone who wants to bring in some fresh ideas, some fresh speakers. I am absolutely looking for someone to shift over to. So yes, please do think about it. If you are moved today, talk to me.
All right, that's it. Thanks.
No, thank you, Leah.
I'm thinking about a cat.
Yeah, I was hoping you might be. And feel free to do it as, partners, group effort. I mean, when I took on initially, I was very, very clear that I would not do, like, Leah was unbelievably amazing when she ran the program, and she did everything. She did the behind the scenes, all the technical, got the content, ran the sessions. I said, I'm not doing that. So I have had a whole lot of help, a lot from Leah in the background, Jan from you today. It's always a group effort. I joke about kind of being the face of Lean In for WOGA and the bigger voice to bring the people in and get the big asks out there. But I will not leave you alone, whoever chooses to help step in.
Thanks, Kat. It has been amazing. Thanks everyone for dialing and stick to the last minute. I know everyone was very busy. So really appreciate it, especially Uma. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. This is inspiring, and you go down to the truth and honesty of things behind the scene.
Yeah, and one ask I have, Uma, I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but any objections to me putting the recording onto our WOGA YouTube channel?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Perfect. Because I know there were a lot of people that wanted to be here today or had to leave early, and I would love to have that content available to them. So thank you.
I've said even more worse things in different parts of my life, so don't worry.
Well, I was laughing because when Jan back to my previous career, which was over 15 years ago, where I was once referred to as a shit stirrer.
Oh my God. Oh, I got my shit all together. Decide which is which.
Now we're talking the oil field mining language. I love it.
I love it. I get dinged a lot in mining because of that language, by the way.
Whew.
Really? Because it's inappropriate for a female, or it's inappropriate for mining?
It's inappropriate for a female.
Wow.
Because the men's conversations are worse, but women are not allowed to be in those conversations.
Okay, I feel like I'm winning today because I haven't dropped an F-bomb.
We haven't had alcohol yet, that's why.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? No.
That's
true.
Just kidding. Got a productive day ahead of me yet. All right. Anyone else? Final thoughts, comments?
Just thank you. This has been awesome.
Oh, no problem at all, Maureen. I love your smiling face. It's amazing. I kept looking at you. I was like, she's so happy. I want to be her.
Well, and I will say both Maureen and Danielle are on the list for the rest of the year. I don't have it memorized on our month, but they will be some of our face-to-face speakers. So can't wait for that. And Gail, feel free to join us for future meetings too, especially where are you located? Are you in Denver?
No, I operate out of California, but I'm temporarily in Phoenix. So
Okay. Well, same time zone then, right?
that's exactly right. So
And Gail is a badass leader from the utilities, isn't it? Utility sector,
Yes.
power generation
Yeah.
sector. There you
energy
go.
conservation and utilities. So, you know, so many of the same issues of male dominated. Oh, I have to admit, who of us has not sat in a meeting, said something, people look at you, and then the person next to you says it, and they're brilliant, brilliant. It's like, oh my heavens.
Well, and Gail, I would definitely encourage you and Chris to connect on LinkedIn. Chris didn't get to really talk about what this business is that she's been building for years, but she is in the environmental space, also specifically wetlands.
Oh, you know, I have been banging the drum on water conservation for decades. And sad to say, you know, it's finally coming to a head. Quick point though, obviously this is a marvelous group of women because I've already gotten 3 LinkedIn invitations from people on this. So, you know, thank you to everyone who reached out. The value of having an unusually spelled name, I'm very easy to find, but happy to accept. And again, Uma, always a pleasure to see you and looking forward to seeing you, really seeing you soon. I'll have to travel
will
and
do.
make sure that you're in town. I got to sign off again. Thank you all. And yes, thank you for the invitation. I look forward to participating more.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us, Gail.
Thanks,
And
Gail.
everyone.
Yeah.
All right.
You can
Anyone?
find me online if anybody needs me. I'm always, I always have an ear.
And she's just a blast to drink wine with.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. I think game on, Kat.
Oh yeah, yeah. I did, well, and I'm trying to remember the last time we got together. I think we had
It was fun.
allotted for like what, an hour and a half, and went 3
okay.
again. Something, yeah. So
I had to extend my parking meter